Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon, and I'm your host. Now, before we get started, please follow us on Twitter at @SensTalk_ and on Instagram at Sens Talk. Now, before we get into today's season preview for the Defenseman, a couple things. Firstly, today I'm excited to announce that Sens Prospects, the go-to source for all things Ottawa Senator prospects, has agreed to join Sens Talk as an occasional contributor. We are thrilled that Sens Prospects has agreed to join our team, as this is a monumental step in our efforts to create the absolute best content for our fans. So stay tuned in the coming months for some great content with Sens Prospects. Like I said before, I'll say it again, Sens Prospects is the go-to source for Sens Prospect news. So link in the description below to his channel. He puts a lot of great coverage and content out there. And on Twitter, at Sens Prospects, he is a must follow and a must subscription. So we are so excited to have him join the team and look forward to seeing some great content in the near future. Lots of great things coming up. Speaking of great things coming up, on January 14th, we're going to have a Sens goaltending preview, ladies and gentlemen. The tandem is going to be Marcus Hogberg and Matt Murray, who's going to be the starting goalie. But even though Murray is starting and Hogberg is backing up, maybe Joey Decord can get some opportunities, Philip Gustafson. We're going to go through all of that on January 14th. Now, a couple of Sens news before we get into today's video, finally. Firstly, Rudolph Balcers, who was a part of that deal with the San Jose Sharks in the Erik Karlsson deal, was considered a centerpiece part of that deal, has been put on waivers by Ottawa yesterday, and today was claimed by, San Jose. The San Jose Sharks reclaimed Rudolph Balcers for nothing, and while Rudolph Balcers isn't an A-plus prospect, he is a good prospect, and this is a clear example of mismanagement by the Ottawa Senators. Now, the good thing is Ottawa does have the first shot at reclaiming Rudolph Balcers if he is put on waivers once again. So if he is put on waivers by San Jose for purposes of AHL or taxi squad assignment, Ottawa would have the first shot at getting him, and I guarantee Ottawa would take another shot at it. Now, Maxime Lajoie, who was sent and cleared waivers the other day, was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes AHL affiliate for AHL forward, minor league deal, but congratulations, Maxime Lajoie. Hopefully you'll get a shot with Carolina. So in this video, we're going to discuss a few things. Firstly, we're going to go through the projected pairings for your Ottawa Senators based off of what we've seen so far in practices and, of course, in scrimmages. So that will be based off of what the coaching staff has put together so far. Then we're going to discuss prospects that could potentially make the team this year on the back end for Ottawa, such as Erik Brannstrom or Christian Wolanin. Then we're going to get into my pairings. If I was the head coach, if I was DJ Smith, who would I put and where would I put them? We'll get into that. Lastly, a couple things. We're going to get into the new arrivals. Who did Ottawa acquire in the offseason, the back end? Artyom Zug, Goodbranson, Braden Coburn, Josh Brown, etc. These are the players that we're going to discuss. We'll get into them later. And then finally, a breakout and bounce back candidates. Who's going to break out? Who needs a bounce back season? We're going to get into that. So let's get into this. For the projected pairings for your Ottawa Senators for this season, it is as follows. The first pairing is a lock. It's a guarantee lock. It's 100%. It's been confirmed, frankly. So this is your first pairing for your Ottawa Senators. It will be Tom Chabot paired with new acquisition Erik Goodbranson. And I like this, frankly, for Ottawa. Erik Goodbranson is a National Hockey League veteran, and while his advanced statistics don't look great, they don't look great, I think this is a much better option than a guy like Nikita Zaitsev, who really negatively affected Tom Chabot's output. Because Tom Chabot needs a guy like Erik Goodbranson who can draw back, stay back, and play defense while he does the offense. And I think this is a dynamic that can happen with Goodbranson on the pairing with Chabot. I think Goodbranson will be able to allow Chabot to contribute more offensively and to take risks while he stays back on the blue line playing defenseman role. So I think this is a good pairing for Ottawa. I'm actually one of the few, in my opinion, that likes this one because Goodbranson's a proven vet. He's one of the only defenseman on this team that has a lot of experience, and with a guy like Chabot, who is your superstar in the back end, you want to have him with a guy who knows what he's doing. Goodbranson's that guy. The second pairing, Mike Riley on the left, defenseman on the second pairing. Mike Riley has a lot of offensive abilities, in my opinion. I think he will get some power play time too. And on top of that, he was low-key one of the more underrated defenseman we had at the latter half of last season. Now, we acquired him for the Minnesota Wild last year for barely anything. Now he's in our top four. I think, while I don't love him as much as Christian Wolanin, which we'll get to in a second, and I know you guys know that I love Christian Wolanin, I think Mike Riley's a fine defenseman. He's probably more of a fifth or sixth defenseman than most other teams, but like a team like Ottawa, who need some offensive output in the top four for their pairings. Mike Riley is the type of guy that I think Ottawa wants to put there, and they're putting him there so far. I would personally put Christian Milan in there, but we'll get to that later. On the second right defensive pairing, I have Nikita Zaitsev. Now, this is a guy we're going to get into later because I personally think Ottawa needs to trade Nikita Zaitsev as soon as possible. But Nikita Zaitsev, he's still an NHL player. DJ Smith loves the guy. They know each other quite fondly from their time and experience in Toronto when they were both in the organization with the Maple Leafs. So Nikita Zaitsev will still be given top 4 minutes. They still have a great relationship, Zaitsev and DJ Smith. And that's what we're seeing. And I can't see Zaitsev going on the third pairing. Now, the third pairing by far, ladies and gentlemen, was the most difficult pairing to decipher. Because with the top 4, you obviously have a good idea in the scrimmages and everything what the top 4 is going to look like. But the third pairing is so difficult to decipher, to figure out who's going to be where, because there's so many players that Ottawa brought in this offseason. So far, what I've been able to decipher and see, this is what I think is going to happen, and this is what I project to happen. As you can see on the screen, I think Christian Milanen and Braden Coburn will get good opportunities equally on the left side on the third pairing, and then Josh Brown, who is acquired from Florida, will be given the third pairing right side minutes. Now, Artyom Zub, as you can see, is the odd man out. He will be the 7th defenseman for Ottawa, in my opinion. I think he will be on the taxi squad, and I'm just basing this because Josh Brown's been given some minutes, he's been given some time, and more importantly, he's on a multi-year contract, so I think they like him. He'll be on that third pairing with a physicality presence. And then Milanen, I love him. We'll get to him later, like right after this. But Christian Milanen has great offensive abilities, underrated as hell. We're going to get to him later. And then Braden Coburn, like Goodbranson, is an NHL veteran. It's been in the NHL for a while and provides stability on the third pairing. Overall, you got on that third pairing some grit and some tenacity with Josh Brown, and then you got offensive abilities with Lannon and steadiness and Coburn. Now, Artyom Zub, like I said, looks to be the 7th defenseman, but another defenseman who's been out of this conversation, and a lot of you guys, I'm sure, are wondering why the hell I haven't mentioned, it is Erik Brannstrom, who is the centerpiece of that Mark Stone deal a couple years ago. Now, based off everything we're seeing, Erik Brannstrom will probably be starting in Belleville this year or on the taxi squad. I don't think he will break through in the top 4. I don't see Nikita Zaitsev being put down to the third pairing, and I don't see Ottawa putting Erik Brannstrom on the left side, even though Erik Brannstrom is better on the left side, and you can see that in his highlights. Whenever he's at his best, he's always on the left side, and I think he's more comfortable. I think he's even said it too, that he's more comfortable on the left side. But Ottawa, with the amount of left defensemen they have coming into the system soon, they are adamant on getting Erik Brannstrom adjusted to the right side. So can Erik Brannstrom beat out Goodbranson on the first pairing? No. Can he beat out Zaitsev on the second pairing? Yes, but the coaching staff probably won't want that to happen. So that leaves Brannstrom on the taxi squad or Belleville. Unfortunately, this is what I see happening, but it's not the worst case scenario. Let Brannstrom dominate in the AHL, let him simmer there, and then trade Zaitsev and get Brannstrom into that top 4. Just trade Zaitsev and you'll clear that logjam. Now, if I was head coach of the Ottawa Senators, this is what my defensive pairings would be. The first pairing would stay the same, Tom Chabot and Erik Goodbranson. Not going to mess with it. I don't really see anyone else that could play first pairing minutes with Chabot minus Goodbranson right now, anyways, because you want somebody with experience on that first pairing. So I think that's the first pairing, and I'll stick with it. Now, the second pairing, it would be hypocritical if I didn't put Christian Milanen in my top 4, and he is in my top 4. On the second pairing, left defensive position, it will be Christian Milanen. Milanen brings a lot of offensive abilities, some great skating abilities. He's a good skater, and he's not the best defender, but he will definitely improve. And when you're a good skater like Milanen is, the defense will come to you. I'm not worried about that. Christian Milanen, like we'll get to him later, but Christian Milanen is ready for a breakout season in my opinion, if given the opportunity. And here, in my pairings, I'm giving him the opportunity. He has so much to give offensively. He's a hell of a skater, and frankly, I think he could really be a defenseman on the back end for Ottawa for years to come if given the opportunity. I hope the Ottawa coaching staff and management can finally give Milanen a top 4 position, and I think he will run with it. I think he is a hell of a defenseman, and overall, I think not enough people are speaking about him. Some people are finally speaking about him. Hell, last night in the scrimmage, he had a hat trick. So I think that will open up some eyes in the Sens coaching and management staff. But in my top 4, I have Milanen on the left side on the second pairing. Now, who do I have with very underrated Christian Wolanin on the second pairing on the right side. It's Erik Brannstrom. Now, while the Senators wanted to play on the right side, he's very good on the left side as well. I put him on the right side here, primarily because Ottawa has a couple, or a few, frankly, defensive prospects coming up that will be on the left side, and they want to have Erik Brannstrom adapt to the right side. So in my scenario, I agree with that. If Erik Brannstrom's comfortable with adapting to the right side, do it, as long as he's okay with it. And in my scenario, this is frankly the only scenario where Erik Brannstrom can really be in the lineup, really where he can get opportunities in the top four. I'm not going to put Wolanin on the right side. Brannstrom, they want him to be on the right side. He's okay with being on the right side. I'm going to put him on the right side. Comment below if you guys disagree with that, but that's what I think. Now, the third pairing, Mike Riley, like I said before, has offensive abilities. I like that. And Zaitsev, I think the Sens need to trade Zaitsev, but on the third pairing, Zaitsev will be a fine defender for sure. Now, who did Ottawa acquire this offseason? Defensively, well, Artyom Zub they got first from Russia in the KHL, and last year, he's not an offensive defenseman, he's more of a two-way defensive defenseman type guy, but last year, in 57 games played, he had 13 goals, 9 assists, and 21 points in the KHL in 2020. So while I wouldn't expect to see those numbers continue in the National Hockey League, or, if he's on the taxi squad or whatever, he's a solid defensive guy, and I haven't seen much of him, but from what I've heard, what I've read, what I've seen in highlights, he's a steady defender who has a big shot and he can hit hard. So sort of a physical defenseman, and you're going to get some physicality and a big shot from him. Now, Erik Brannstrom, he's a veteran, okay? He can hit ya. He knows what to do. He has experience. He's very experienced in the National Hockey League. In the 2020, he had 51 games played, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. We all know Erik Brannstrom's not an offensive defenseman, and that's not why he's here. He's here to play defense, to help Chabot create more offense, and that's what I think he will do. I think he's going to do a good job, frankly. I think a lot of people wrote him off when we acquired him a few months ago, but now I really think he's going to do a good job because I think that pairing will be nice. I honestly think that pairing will be good. Now, Braden Coburn's interesting. 40 games played last year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He got 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points in 2020 last year with the Lightning. Braden Coburn's a depth defenseman. I think he'll be starting on the third pairing for Ottawa this year. But overall, Braden Coburn brings a veteran ability, but he's a lesser version of a good Brannstrom, in my opinion, for the skill and experience. Braden Coburn, he's been in the league for a decent amount of time. And, he's a guy who I prefer. I honestly prefer Brannstrom over Coburn based off of, the value of what they're bringing, what we need them for. But Braden Coburn, I can see him as a trade asset or a guy that plays on the third pairing. But don't expect him to be a power play one, quarterback. The last guy we got, who's also on a multi-year deal, is Josh Brown from Florida. 56 games last year, had 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points. This guy is He's an enforcer. He's an enforcer defenseman. He's essentially the replacement for Mark Borowiecki. He plays a similar style to Borowiecki, and that's what you should expect from him. A hard-hitting defenseman with grittiness and will block and lay it all on the line for the Ottawa Senators. That's what Josh Brown is. Now, who can use a breakout season or more importantly, who needs a bounce-back season? Firstly, Erik Brannstrom needs a huge breakout season for Ottawa because there's been tons of speculation on Brannstrom and he's still regarded as a top prospect, but many fans are beginning to get restless surrounding his uncertainty. If he's not on the opening night roster, many fans will come to the conclusion that Brannstrom won't be as good as anticipated. I'm personally still confident in him. Defensemen take a little bit of time to develop. It's sort of like a goaltender. There's a lot you need to learn as a defenseman. It's not like a forward. You got to learn how to defend against guys like Crosby, guys like Leon Draisaitl, McDavid, McKinnon. You can go through the list. It's not as easy. So there's a lot to learn as a defenseman. I think Erik Brannstrom will eventually be a top 4 guy on this team, but I don't know if it's going to be this year. I expect him to start in Belleville, and then we'll see where it goes. There's just too many defensemen right now in Ottawa. Now, Nikita Zaitsev is statistically one of the worst defensemen in the National Hockey League last season. With the prospects coming up to the big club within the next couple of years, like JBD, Jake Sanderson, etc., now is the time to trade Nikita Zaitsev. You need to trade him. They need to trade him now. I don't know what you'll have to include in that deal to get rid of Zaitsev in his contract, but we got to trade Nikita Zaitsev because there's no spot for him on this team anymore. At this point, he's really just blocking a spot for a prospect. Lastly, Christian Melanin is the most underrated player on this team, in my opinion. If given the opportunity, he will excel. Mark my words. He's gifted offensively, has a great offensive IQ, and given the opportunity, he can really be a power play 2 quarterback type of guy. He's really underrated. I could rave about him all day, but if you want to hear about what I have to say more about Christian Melanin, put it in the link description below. I'll have a video. That video there in the link description below will be about Christian Melanin and why he's a top 4 defenseman. But besides that, thank you all for watching. Comment below what you think about my pairings and what the projected pairings for Ottawa are. Regardless, there's going to be a lot of movement in the back end for Ottawa this year, and I look forward to see what Ottawa and the defensive pairing does this year, because last season they were not good. But this year, I have some decent expectations. I think they're going to be much better than last season. So besides that, ladies and gentlemen, comment below what you think. I'm interested in reading all the comments. I will be responding to all of them. Besides that, thank you all for watching. Please follow us on Twitter at SensTalk_ and on Instagram at SensTalk. Like us on Facebook at SensTalk, and be sure to click the big red button down there and subscribe to us and turn the notification bell on so you get notified whenever we upload a new video. But besides that, I'll see you January 14th for the Sens goaltending season preview. Besides that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you soon. Go Sens go.